What's going on, bottom line viewers and NFL bettors? It's Mitch back here with another week of NFL best bets. This time for week 4 of the 2022 NFL season. If you guys tune in each and every week, you may understand that last week was my absolute worst week ever since I started making these videos. I have never done worse than what I achieved last week. It was utterly atrocious. It was disgusting. But that's behind us, and I promise you a bounce back week. Enough complaining. Let's get down to business. Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL best bets versus the spread. Don't forget to check out my favorite over-under picks and also the parlays each and every week here on the BLV. This week, I don't have a favorite teaser of the week, so I'm giving you bonus picks. Because I did so poorly last week, I'm going to promise extra success this week with bonus picks. So let's give it a try and let's roll into week 4, beginning with my first pick versus the spread, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers -3 at home versus the New York Jets. This is pretty simple. Zach Wilson is back. Zach Wilson is starting for the New York Jets. No more Joe Flacco. And is there a team? Is there a scheme that a young quarterback coming off a significant injury would rather play less than the Pittsburgh Steelers? The Steelers scheme is famous for confusing quarterbacks, for showing a multitude of looks at the line of scrimmage, for making quarterbacks see ghosts. And that's what exactly could go down in Pittsburgh, in that environment. It's going to be a lot for that young quarterback to handle. Not only that, but Pittsburgh is coming off 10 days of rest. They have extra preparation for the New York Jets. And it's Mike Tomlin taking on Robert Saleh, aka one of the coaches I respect the most and one of the coaches I respect the least. The biggest mismatch in this game is the Steelers' ability to send and get pressure versus a New York Jets offensive line with a young quarterback who likes to hold on to the football, a Jets offensive line that has lost 3 starters since the beginning of the year, put another on injured reserve, George Fant, who was playing left tackle for this team. They have to figure out that situation. Like I said, the Steelers love their pressure looks. They love their pressure packages, and they will look to expose that immediately. So you have that. And the New York Jets, previously to this injury, were already allowing the most pressures in the NFL by a significant rate. A league high 56 pressures, which was 14 more than second place. I like the Steelers at home to cover the number in a desperation spot, because if they lose this game, they might not be looking like a playoff team this year, and we know how much the Steelers care to win. My second pick versus the spread for week number 4 is the Cleveland Browns -1 in Atlanta. I love the Browns for the matchup on the field. I've honestly been impressed by the Browns and how they're playing on offense, how they're flying around on defense. But the biggest strength of the Browns, which is the best in football, is their running game. Their running game is dominant, and their running game allows their offense and their team to dictate pace of play and dictate the way they want to play their opponent. They play a Atlanta Falcons defense that is not very good versus the run. In fact, they're one of the worst teams versus the run in the NFL. It's an Atlanta Falcons team that is extremely limited and lacking talent on the defensive side of the football, especially in the front seven. Difference makers that can make plays versus Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and disrupt the running scheme and the greatness of that backfield duo in Cleveland. I feel that Cleveland is going to be able to open up their passing game through that ability to run the football. As we've seen in previous weeks, Jacoby Brissett has been very calm, very confident, not making a lot of mistakes, and actually pinpoint accurate on a lot of these throws off of play action down the field. He's stressing defenses. He's got an arm. He can make throws. As long as he's comfortable in the pocket, which he is behind a dominant offensive line that doesn't allow a lot of pressure, and Atlanta Falcons pass rush is not going to get to him. Absolutely not. I view the Browns offense as doing whatever they please in this game. And it all starts with that ground game. Dean Pease, he's going to try to stack the box. He's going to try to make Jacoby beat him. But once that run game's established, it's going to be very difficult for those linebackers and safeties to not bite on some play action, leaving guys like David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Amari Cooper down the field for big plays. On the defensive side of the football, there are some injuries that concern me. Potentially Myles Garrett, potentially Jadeveon Clowney, who could also be back this week. And then Denzel Ward is also limited in practice. We'll have to see if they play, so certainly look out for that. But I do expect Ward and Clowney to be in the lineup. Maybe Garrett misses, most likely Garrett misses, and I hope that he comes back healthy to the lineup soon enough. But the Cleveland Browns are a pretty talented defense. They're certainly not the worst defense that Atlanta has played so far. And I do think that their speed comes in handy when playing some of the athletes that Atlanta has. This is a fast Cleveland defense that has pretty quick linebackers and can flow with this zone running scheme of Cordero Patterson. I also feel like they can create a bit of pressure in drop back situations. And I do think they've got a talented secondary to match up with the likes of Drake London. I do expect Atlanta to move the ball a bit, but I do think that if Cleveland jumps on Atlanta early and gets the lead through that running game, I think it's going to be very difficult for Atlanta to come from behind in drop back situations, because what Atlanta wants to do is they want to beat you with screens, with play action, with boots, with moving the pocket, with all these crazy pistol runs and read options. And I just don't see that working when you're playing from behind. So I think Cleveland should be able to jump out in front, dictate this game, and then eventually cause Mariota to make mistakes. All they got to do is win by one. I expect them to do so on the road. Nick Chubb's back home. He has a huge game, and the Browns win. My third best bet versus the spread for week number 4 is the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5 versus the Indianapolis Colts. This is sticking to the fundamentals. This is an easy choice for me. When I looked at all the games, I said, the Tennessee Titans getting points versus the Colts. It's like clockwork. You gotta do it. It might not be super fantastic, and your friends might not be all excited for you to bet this game, but the Tennessee Titans have quite frankly owned Frank Reich. They have. They really have. The Tennessee Titans have won 4 of the past 5 matchups in this AFC South rivalry straight up. Straight up. That is rare in a matchup like this. And the Tennessee Titans, I feel, are being a bit underrated for their victory over the Raiders. And I think the Colts are being a bit overrated for their victory over the Chiefs. I would certainly say, watching both of those games, that the Titans were less fortunate, less lucky than the Colts were to beat the Chiefs when they beat the Raiders. The Titans could have also very easily beaten the Giants in week 1, and we're talking about a 2-1 football team here. So the Tennessee Titans, other than playing the Bills, have been a very competitive team this year and perhaps are underrated entering this game. I expect a pretty low scoring game in this one, as both offenses are the weaker side of the football for each football team. I also think both teams are familiar with each other, which typically lends towards a lower scoring game. Both teams want to run the ball, they want to establish the run, and they want to utilize play action to be able to attack their opponents in the passing game. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, the area where they're most overrated is their offensive line play, specifically when it comes to protecting Matt Ryan, their quarterback. So far this season, the Colts offensive line has been very overrated. It's not as good as you think. They allowed 5 sacks last week versus Kansas City. They allowed 10 quarterback hits last week versus Kansas City. Now you have similar issues with guys like Jeffrey Simmons and Danico Autry coming for your quarterback. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs are aggressive up front. Yes, they have a very underrated defensive line. Yes, they have the ability to blitz under Steve Spagnuolo, but so do the Titans. Like I said, they've got a couple of very good pass rushers. They've got an equally dominant interior player, Simmons. When you compare him to Chris Jones, I'd take Jones, but not by much. And then Mike Vrabel and that defensive side of the football can be creative at sending different looks and pressures and expose the pass protection of the Colts. Matt Ryan is a sitting duck back there. Matt Ryan feels a little timid behind his offensive line. And I do think the Titans have gotten a little healthier in the secondary. The hope is that Amani Hooker can play as well this week, who is on the injury report. Christian Fulton's back in the lineup. They have signed a couple veterans to help them out on defense when it comes to Terrence Mitchell at cornerback, Joel Schobert at linebacker. Those two guys should also help the depth of this roster defensively. I look at this Tennessee team, and I just think they're generally underrated when you compare them to the Colts. Now, both teams have been evaluated so far at the lower end of the NFL. The Titans, 26th in DVOA. The Colts, 30th, right? The Colts are below, but both teams are in the bottom 7. So both teams are not very good. Well, the Tennessee offense is actually ranking 17th right now. And Indianapolis is 32nd. 32nd, dead last. And if you watched all 3 games of the Colts, you would understand why. I just said they can't pass protect. They're not running the football at the same rate. They have one receiver that does things, and everyone else is irrelevant. And Matt Ryan has got a noodle for an arm out there. Speaking of Matt Ryan, the Titans also have the better quarterback in this game so far this season. According to PFF grade, Ryan Tannehill is the 16th best, highest graded quarterback in football so far, while Matt Ryan is the 29th best quarterback in football. So yes, Matt Ryan is a big name, but he's not playing like Matty Ice right now. I would take the Titans, a team that has historically won this rivalry with the hook in a defensive game. Sounds good to me. Take the points. My 4th best bet versus the spread for week number 4 is the Buffalo Bills minus the 3 in Baltimore. Now, a lot of people will be taking the home team. A lot of people will be jumping on the Lamar bandwagon. I'm not removing myself from the Lamar bandwagon, but what I am simply saying here is this is the worst matchup by far that the Ravens have faced so far this season. On offense for Buffalo, they are torching teams left and right, and they enter this game extremely angry. Despite moving the ball at will versus Miami, they couldn't put the ball in the end zone, and that resulted in a loss, a shocking loss in the Miami Heat. Buffalo is angry. Josh Allen is pissed. And that will lead to a big performance from Buffalo. Buffalo typically blows out opponents when they win games, which is why I'm not worried about the field goal spread. Because if I'm right about this game, Buffalo will win by likely 7 or more. That's just the way that they play. They're a very explosive, dominant team when they win games. I could see it happening because Buffalo is very, very good against the blitz. Josh Allen is very, very good at deciphering it and executing versus the blitz. The Ravens' only way of creating any semblance of pressure right now is through blitzing extra people at the quarterback, which leaves their secondary exposed and allows Josh Allen to run around, create his magic, zip a football into a tight window, And Stephon Diggs, Isaiah McKenzie, all these weapons out there, Gabe Davis can make plays down the field vertically in chunks. And Josh Allen has shown that he can also dink and dunk his way down the field if you do not blitz him. So the Ravens will be stuck with rather not allowing Lamar Jackson enough time with the football or trying to sell out to allow Lamar Jackson more time with the football. And that's their choice in this game. And I ultimately believe that Allen is going to be able to pick apart the Ravens no matter what they choose, because the Ravens can't get a pass rush with 4 men, and they're not going to be able to properly get to Josh Allen with the blitz, and they're not going to be able to hold up in the back end well enough. This Ravens defense has simply not been good. They allowed 6 touchdowns to Tua. They allowed 300 plus passing yards to Mac Jones. They have been bad all season long. This is one of the worst Ravens defenses I've seen in a long time, and they're one of the worst defenses in football. So this handicap simply comes down to the fact that the Buffalo Bills defense is a lot better than the Ravens defense. And not only is it better, it matches up better with the opposition. Yes, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, I'd call them the best offense so far this year because they're creating explosive plays in the passing game and Lamar is doing his magic on the ground. But the Buffalo Bills defense is still one of the top units in the league. Micah Hyde is out, but Jordan Poyer's expected back. Dane Jackson's expected back. They're expecting Ed Oliver to come back. All guys are practicing right now, which would be huge lifts to the secondary and the front of this defense. They've got a lot of speed on the edges with guys like Gregory Rousseau and Von Miller, guys that can track down in space Lamar Jackson and set the edge. And they've got great linebackers with Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. They're also one of the most soundly coached defenses in football, and they've seen Lamar Jackson attacks in the past and handled them well, like in the playoffs a couple of years ago. So while the Ravens are a bit better than they were, a couple of years ago, especially offensively, I feel like the Bills will do a better job of slowing down that attack than the Ravens have any opportunity or chance of slowing down Josh Allen. Give me, in my opinion, the best team in football versus a very good MVP player with a pretty flawed team around him. My number 5 spread pick of week number 4 is the Jacksonville Jags plus 6.5. Now, I would prefer taking the 7 if you can possibly find it later in the week. I took it early in the week when I could find it. I'm taking the 6.5 though on this show because that's where it stands right now. I can't pass it up because why? Because I feel like Philadelphia was a team that I was hyping up before the season, that a lot of interesting, smart people were really on before the season. And I feel like that hype has been carried over into this season, and the hype has been verified. Whenever we see hype verified, a team just becomes a darling of bettors, a darling of the public, and that's the way it is. With Jacksonville, there were some people saying, hey, take a long shot bet at Jacksonville winning the AFC South. Take a look at Jacksonville, second-year quarterback, improved talent, better coaching, and yet all of these things have been verified. Jacksonville's playing phenomenal on offense. They're playing incredible on defense. But the hype has not been carried over to the Vegas lines quite yet. They're still not giving Jacksonville enough respect. They're getting 6.5 in this game. I understand it's on the road. But when you look deeper into the matchup, Jacksonville defensively is playing great football. Josh Allen's a top 6 pass rusher in the NFL according to PFF. Trayvon Walker is just an absolute freak show, which carries through across the rest of the defense. Trayvon Walker, freak. Josh Allen, freak. Roy Robertson Harris, freak. Aluakon, speedy freak. Devin Lloyd, versatile freak. Their corners, top 25 graded on the outside, Campbell and Shaq Griffin, who can match up with those receivers. And I look at Jacksonville's defense as extremely underrated in the front 7, extremely athletic in the front 7, so they'll be able to handle Jalen Hurts' running game. And I don't think they'll be pushed around and overpowered by the Eagles in terms of that running game. I think that will force Jalen Hurts into more traditional drop back passes, which I think, yes, he's going to make plays, but not as many as he's been making. The Eagles have also not been a team that has been pressed to actually play well in the second half. They've often gained leads early. And I feel like that's not going to happen as much because of that matchup on defense, because there might be a little friction there and a little bit of ability to slow them down just enough. And then on the other side, Jacksonville's offense is quietly one of the top in the NFL in terms of early down efficiency, especially throwing the football, but they've also created balance with Travis Etienne and James Robinson. Their offensive line's playing very well. Christian Kirk is basically uncoverable right now. Zay Jones is playing good. Like, Trevor Lawrence is on the money right now. He's the better passer in this game for my money right now. And while Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate and a dynamic player, I think that people are sleeping on what Trev is doing right now. I think that Doug Peterson is also a huge factor for me to bet this, because he is kind of clutch, and this is a big game for his career, and this is big for him personally. This is the team he used to coach. This is the team he won a Super Bowl with, the only Super Bowl they've ever won. He's going back to Philadelphia, and Doug Peterson is an incredible motivator. He gets his teams up for these games, especially as underdogs. I've seen it before. I've seen my team lose a Super Bowl against this guy coaching in a big game. I just feel like Jacksonville is a great underdog to jump on right now, and I think they're still being undervalued, getting 6.5 versus a good team in the Eagles. My sixth best bet versus the spread for week number 4 is the Dallas Cowboys -3. Now, I would prefer to just take the money line on the Cowboys here, but I'm going to take the 3. I saw it went from 3.5 back down to 3, so I'm going to jump on the 3 for you guys right now. I like the Dallas Cowboys schematically and in terms of how they match up with Washington. I understand that this is kind of buying the Cowboys with their backup quarterback Cooper Rush at the peak of value that you could possibly, because we just saw them win on Monday night. We saw Cooper Rush look good. We saw CeeDee Lamb catch a one-hand pass. We saw the freak shows up front of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. We saw all that stuff, right? But the Dallas Cowboys are legitimately good. I'm buying stock in the Cowboys for a legitimately good football team that I think's an NFC playoff team. And I think they're being undervalued here. I think Washington is just not a very good team. That's also just terrible coaching wise, and also terrible on their offensive line right now with all the injuries they have. So the Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in creating pressure. Obviously, they can get pressure with not blitzing. They can get pressure with 4. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong. These guys are playing absolutely phenomenal ball. Parsons is arguably the best defensive player in the NFL right now. Could win Defensive Player of the Year. And DeMarcus Lawrence woke up last week with, I think, 3 sacks. So you could see both these guys go off in this matchup. Why? Well, Washington right now, their offensive line is very beat up, and they've got a quarterback in Carson Wentz who notorious to hold on to the football, do spinoramas, throw the ball left-handed to the other team, and you know he's going to throw the football to Trayvon Diggs. It's just going to happen. Like, it's a foregone conclusion. So Carson Wentz holds on to the football. This team is actually forcing him to hold on the ball because their offense is being generated and fueled by downfield passes often to Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. That's where they've had their most success. So they're holding on the ball. Well, the pass rush is going to get there before he's able to execute those throws down the field. When you look at the offensive line, they're missing a few key players here. They're missing Charles Leno, potentially. Their left tackle did not practice on Wednesday. They're missing potentially a starting guard. Did not practice on Wednesday. They're missing their starting center, Chase Roulier, I believe is his name. He's out, and he's a good center. So really every single offensive lineman, if you look at the injury report, is banged up, is in some way, shape, or form going to be affected, whether they play or not in this game. And then you look at the other side of the football, the offense of the Cowboys could be getting reinforcements. Michael Gallup could be back. You could also be getting Dalton Schultz back in the lineup, who didn't play last week, is a pretty good tight end. Their offensive line is improving up front in pass protection. And their running game is pretty darn good. Washington's defense is just straight up not very good. They are 29th in yards per attempt on the ground. Tony Pollard, Zeke are running the ball well. They're going to be able to run the ball, dictate pace of play. put the pressure on Washington to pass the ball and get sacked and get turnovers. Washington has allowed the most sacks in football. I almost forgot that stat. And you look at a defense in Washington that's 32nd in turnovers, that's 28th versus the pass. They just do nothing well. They're not creative. Cooper Rush will be able to comfortably play in this game. And even though, he's a backup, stop buying into that mumbo jumbo. The Cowboys are a better team, and Cooper Rush has proven he can win games in this league. I'm taking the Cowboys -3. They're the more talented team. They're the more, I would say, probably healthy team, and they're in a good spot at home here. They should execute, they should perform, and they understand that Dak's coming back soon, and they want to continue this momentum. So the Cowboys -3 is the pick. My seventh pick versus the spread for week number 4 is the San Francisco 49ers -1.5 in a big game, Monday Night Football at home versus the Los Angeles Rams. This one is kind of like the Titans pick. This is fundamentals. Why am I picking the Niners? Because you pick the Niners when they play the Rams, especially when they play at home. The Rams haven't won on the road versus the 49ers since 2018. That was the season before the Niners actually became a good team. Okay? Last year on Monday Night Football, the same situation. The Niners beat the absolute you-know-what out of the Los Angeles Rams. 38-10 was the final score. That is some history backing the 49ers in this spot. It is week number 4. The Rams are 2-1. The Niners are 1-2. But what if I told you not only does this game mean more for the Niners because of that, but it also means more because they lost the NFC Championship and they're hungry, more hungry than the Rams. They've been thinking about that game and the Jaquiski Tart drop for the whole offseason. They really want this game, guys. And then on top of that, you've got a team that is actually better in terms of statistically advanced stats. The team that's 1-2 has been better than the team that's 2-1, right? The Rams have played a cupcake schedule so far. Yes, they played the Bills, but then they played Arizona and Atlanta. 2 bad teams with 2 really bad defenses. So the offense of the Rams that looked terrible versus a top defense in week 1 looked better in week 2 and 3. But was that because they played bad defenses, or is that because they've improved? I kind of think it's because they played bad competition. When they play a very good defense like San Francisco, who can get pressure with 4, who can get to Matthew Stafford, who has been very good versus Stafford and this Rams offense in the past, it's going to be Troublesville for the Los Angeles Rams, because you only really have Cooper Kupp that a defense has got to worry about. Expect multiple double teams in this game on him. Fred Warner can handle Tyler Higbee by himself. They're not going to run the ball. They're 30th in running the football are the Los Angeles Rams. The Niners are top 5 in run defense. They're first versus the pass right now. And yes, that is somewhat affected by the monsoon game, but they're first versus the pass right now. You look at those advanced statistics that show how good a team really is without the wins-loss record, and you see the Rams are 22nd in DVOA and the Niners are 9th despite their record. The Niners are in the top 10 despite their record, and the Rams are 22nd, which is a below-average team. Nothing impressive whatsoever. I think Shanahan will find creative ways to protect his quarterback, to get the ball in his playmakers' hands. George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. I think there's definitely flaws in this Rams defense that you can expose. There's great strengths, but there's also great flaws. And with that Rams defense, we've seen the ability for the Niners to possess the football in the past. And in that game on Monday night last year, that's exactly what they did. And they forced Stafford to start pressing, and that's what happened. In this game this year, the same thing could happen, as the Rams defense is not very good at allowing and getting stops early on drives, right? They allow the 28th most time of possession, and they allow the 29th most plays per possession. So the Niners will be able to most likely extend drives, milk the clock, and work their offense that way. Even if they don't score a lot of points, I expect the Niners offense to be on the field a lot, which will help them control this game and win this game. Also, bad offensive lines don't travel well, especially when they play Nick Bosa. So give me the Niners -1.5 versus their rivals, the Los Angeles Rams. And the final pick for week number 4, aka the bounce back week, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this is a bonus pick because we don't know where this game's going to be played. I would probably recommend to stay away from this game until later in the week just due to that fact. But if you can find the Bucs at, +1, or you could just take them on the money line, which is what I would do, it's worth it. It's just if you want to pick them in like a teaser or something, maybe you want to wait a little bit longer. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my pick versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And I really like this one as long as the Bucs are healthy. I got a little bit ahead of myself last week on picking the Bucs over the Packers because I didn't really know how healthy they were going to be. I expected better. I expected Donovan Smith and Julio to play. They didn't play, so that hurt me definitely. And the Bucs still had a chance to win that game. Everything that I said kind of came through from a defensive standpoint, holding Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to only 14. And a lot of that came from smoke and mirrors on that side of the football. And a lot of it came from their ability early to be able to run the ball a bit and then set themselves up for success on third down. Well, let's look at that matchup versus Kansas City's offense, right? The almighty Kansas City offense that you might remember was kind of shut down in the Super Bowl a couple years ago to shocking fashion. Well, this offensive line that they paid a ton of money to has not performed well this season. They were dominated against the Chargers for my money from watching that tape. And then the week after, they were dominated by the Indianapolis Colts, DeForest Buckner and company. The Chiefs can't run the ball. They have no dimension of a running game. They are one of the worst running teams in football, and they shouldn't even pretend to want to run the ball. They won't be able to run the ball. It's like the Bucs are going to be playing light boxes. They're going to be saying, hey, here you go. Take your 3 yards of carry. Take your ability to try to run over Vita Vea. Good luck. We're going to play too deep, and we're going to take away your passing concepts. And that's what I feel the Bucs are going to do, just like they did in the Super Bowl. And they dared the Chiefs to beat them running the ball, and they didn't try it. They didn't do it, and they won't do it again. On top of that, I think the Chiefs will try to attack the Bucs through RPOs, very much like the Packers did, because they're going to expect the Bucs to be playing in the box, playing heavy against the run, because that's kind of how they play defense. But the thing is, yeah, you got to play a little heavy against the run when you play the Packers, but not against the Chiefs because the Packers can run the ball. The Chiefs can't. So those RPOs, I think because they played the Packers, they'll be more prepared for them. And I think they'll be able to stop them better. And we know they have the personnel to do it. It's just more so the alignments, the formations, and how they attack you. That's the tricky part. So I think the Bucs will be prepared. When we look at individual matchups, I think Vita Vea will give this offensive line a lot of issues up front, in the middle, pushing the pocket. Nobody has been better pass rushing and getting pressure consistently than Shaq Barrett off the edge. Orlando Brown is really struggling right now, and their right tackle position is perhaps their most weak position. Joe Tryon also showed up in that game versus the Packers. Their front overall is just really effective at getting rather blitzes in or 4-man rush in. I think they'll mix in both. Here's why, right? A lot of people say don't blitz Mahomes, don't blitz Mahomes, don't blitz Mahomes, but that was with Tyreek Hill, in my opinion. When you have a secondary like the Bucs, who have speed, who have good man ability, Valdez-Scantling isn't running by Jamel Dean. That's not going to happen, in my opinion. Maybe they create 1 or 2 big plays, but it's worth the game-changing plays on potential blitz packages that you could see from the creative Todd Bowles defense that could change the game. And honestly, these matchups across the board really favor the Bucs, other than Kelsey, and you would expect Kelsey to see a lot of doubles, a lot of bracket coverage in this game with rather Levante David and Winfield, Logan Ryan, Mike Edwards, some sort of combination of safety and linebacker. I just think the Chiefs are going to be in a lot of trouble offensively. I don't see them moving the ball effectively against the best defense for my money in the NFL, a defense that's good against the run, good against the pass, and can really stop any type of offense too. So, and they know how to play Mahomes. So that's the thing. I think it's going to be tough. And then on the other side, a lot of people are critical of the Bucs offense, but I think a lot is going to change, and a lot of people's minds are going to change about the Bucs once they see them a bit healthier. So we noted on Wednesday that Chris Godwin came back limited to practice, that Julio came back and was practicing last week. That's a good sign for him to come back this week to potentially play. Mike Evans is off suspension, which is a huge X factor. Their offensive line, Donovan Smith, the left tackle, which is the biggest flaw of their offensive line right now, he will be back most likely in this game. He practiced last week, wasn't able to go against the Packers, but looks to be able to go this week. So a lot is trending in the right direction for their offense. And they also found some rhythm with Russell Gage, and they're finding some rhythm with some of their backup guys, as we saw at the end of the last game against the Packers with Tom Brady. And Brady's playing well. It's just a matter of getting those weapons on the field. So I think that leads to the Bucs passing the ball more in games overall and being a more efficient offense. And I think they're going to figure that out the more that they play. So I expect Julio to be out there. I expect Evans to be out there. I could see Donovan Smith being out there. If that's the case, I think this could turn into a bit of the Super Bowl repeat type of deal. And I know that's bold to say, but I could see that happening if the Bucs are healthy on offense. This is a very bad matchup in my opinion for the Chiefs. And I like the Chiefs defense and I respect the Chiefs defense, but there is nothing that Spagnuolo has done or shown that Tom Brady hasn't seen from him. He's faced him in Super Bowls twice. He's faced him in big games before. He's seen it all against this guy. And there's no Charvarius Ward, the big physical corner, press corner to take on Mike Evans. I think he could have a big game off suspension, fresh and healthy. I think the Bucs are a really good football team, and I think people are sleeping on them because of their injuries. And I think if they're healthier in this game, if they will win this game, I will guarantee it right now. So that is my picks. Those are my picks, I should say. Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we bounce back this week. I think we will. Let me know in the comments what you think of my picks. Let me know your picks and your best bets, and good luck this week. Peace.